How are you investing in your life? Which little life pots are depleted and which ones are full? Relationships, health, parenting, work, hobbies, the list is endless. Lots of plates spinning in the air, right? These little pots, if they are depleted, do you know how to fill them back up again? I said, how are you investing in your life? Invest implies doing some work, investing some time and energy into filling up these little pots. What if I could give you a tool that you could use to help in all areas of your life? We're not taught this stuff at school, and likely we didn't grow up with this stuff either. Let me help. Come on. Welcome back to these teaching videos here on A Spiritual Life. If you're new here, I'm Carrie, I'm a mindfulness teacher, and I'm here to teach and demonstrate mindfulness tools so you can move out of autopilot and live your precious life without regrets, more consciously and connected as a family. So let's dive in to this acronym that is going to solve all your problems, right? So sometimes in life, we have these issues. So back to these little pots I mentioned, we have these little pots of all the different areas, all the spinning plates we've got. And sometimes they're depleted and sometimes they're not. Sometimes we're not aware they're depleted and it takes someone else to tell us that something is not right. So sometimes we don't know what the problem is, let alone how to solve it, right? So this acronym will not only solve it, but it will highlight the problem too, for you then to be able to solve it. So awareness is key. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through this acronym and I'll give you some examples afterwards. And then at the end, as always, we'll relate it back to you and your family. First of all, let me introduce this acronym and how it came about. So the acronym has come from mindfulness principles. So principles that have helped me to work around this, to use mindfulness tools. And I kept coming back to them. That word is poignant. That word is poignant. So in the end, I was like, oh, is there some way I can remember this and actually work with it and use it? And so I made an acronym. Some of the first letters I've already done in-depth videos of, so I'll put the playlist at the end, and if you want to know a bit more about the first 4 letters of this acronym, then you can go and check that out. So what does it spell? What does its acronym spell? It spells banker. So that's why I put as a title, invest in your life. You are the banker of your life. You're investing time, effort and energy into filling up these pots, finding out where the problem is and being able to solve it. That's what this acronym is going to do for you. So the first one, B, balance. So before we start, I should just go back to what mindfulness means. Mindfulness is to pay attention to the present moment without judgment. So now we know what that means, or another way I say it is to be in the now with kindness. So if we think about that as we're going through this acronym as well, you'll also see that because of that definition is where some of these words from this acronym has come from. So B, balance. When we talk about balance in mindfulness, we don't swing either way. If I say not to do something, it doesn't mean do the complete opposite. In mindfulness, we talk about a middle ground. Now, I've also had a thought about balance as well in my life about, oh, I'm not in balance, and we can become attached to that, right? Which is not what mindfulness is about. So if we understand about balance, that it's not exactly in the middle of a scale. It's not for the scale to be exactly like this, but it's not for the scale to be actually touching the floor. That's well and truly out of balance. So what I'm saying is, it can be like this. Okay, this is life. This is where we want to be in life. We don't want to be here all the time. How boring would that be anyway? So we want it to be like this. We want to be aware when it starts to tip and start to come back, whether or not we get all the way there or not. And we might just tip over the other side as well. And that's fine. Okay, you'll see as we go through this acronym that it's all right to not be perfect. Okay, so when we talk about balance, it's not too tight and not too loose. Okay, so you're not one end of the scale or the other. You're somewhere in the middle. Not right in the middle, but somewhere in the middle. So that's the B. A. Banker A. So A is acceptance. This is massive. Acceptance of yourself, acceptance of people, acceptance of situation. So acceptance of yourself, others, and the situation. It sounds easy. It sounds simple, but these things, putting them into practice, isn't always easy. So acceptance is just that, being in acceptance of you, other people, or the thing, right? Not resigning to. You're not just thinking, oh, I can't be bothered to do that, that's fine, I'll just accept that and be lazy. You're also not saying you're going to accept a situation if there's something that can be done about it. You know, you're not going to lie down and let everyone walk all over you. It's not about that. If something can be said and done, then do it. If not, that's when you need to accept it and let it go. Because if there's nothing that can be done, there's nothing that can be done. What's the point in adding stress and secondary suffering onto it? Okay? Secondary suffering being the analogy that the Buddhists use is that second arrow. The first arrow is the situation, the thing, what someone's said and done, what you've said and done, the thing, right? That's happened. The second arrow is what you've done to contribute to that. What story have you told? What are you telling yourself? What are you adding on to it? You're giving yourself more emotional turmoil instead of just accepting it for what it is, that first arrow. That first arrow's been hit. Let's deal with it. Can we do something about it? Yes. Then do so. If you can't, don't. Accept it and move on. So that's a real hard one to look into. So the N on banker is non-judgment. Non-judgment. And again, that is to be non-judgmental of yourself and others. Okay? When you find yourself judging, having a criticism about yourself or someone else, you're not in a happy place, are you? And if you're doing that a lot more to others than you are yourself, you inevitably are doing it to yourself, you just might not be aware of it. So if you constantly look out at people and say, oh, that person's really fat, or they shouldn't be wearing that, you're probably doing that to yourself all the time. And that's suffering. Why do we need to pay past judgment about other people? Why? And a lot of the times we don't even know what they're going through. And if we did, we might go, oh, sorry, I didn't realise. Well, why do we need to judge anyway? The whole point of judgment is to see if we've got any fear, if there's any, if there's anything to be fearful. So our safety. I'm judging this person in this situation to see if I'm safe. And if we're not doing it in that scenario, we're doing it as a second arrow to bring on more suffering to ourselves or other people in our relationships. And then K from the banker is kindness. So this is another key. They're all key. They're all really key, which is why that just had to come into this acronym. Kindness, we've lost it. We've really lost kindness, I think. Kindness to ourselves and other people. We've gotten so busy in our lives right now, filming this in 2025. We've gotten so busy in our lives that to do something for other people, we feel it's a chore, or we feel like we're always doing it, and we build a resentment around it. I feel now personally that kindness is on par with resentment, and that's not real kindness. We need to go back to what kindness really is, and feel what it's like to be in kindness, to both give and receive it. So what does it feel like to give kindness? What's it feel like in the body? To be kind to somebody else, you actually get something back. So it's not resentment. It's not about, I'm doing it all the time. You do it because you want to, and you do it because you want to feel that good emotion back. Well, you don't actually do it for that intention. That's a byproduct. That's a bonus. You do it because you want to help someone and you want to be of service. The byproduct, the bonus, is that you get a really lovely feeling back from doing that, if we have some space and time to acknowledge that even happening, instead of going, right, I've done that thing, now I had to do. I've done that thing, I had to do. And then it builds resentment. That's not kind. That's not kindness. And likewise, kindness to yourself, and really feel it. Again, without adding resentment to it. I've had a bath. I've done my meditation, and that's done and out the way. What? No. Be in the kindness as you're giving it to yourself, without resentment, without shame, without blame. Sit in the kindness that you've given yourself. You've had a bath. How do you feel now you've had a bath? We don't give ourselves the pause enough to recognize that. So those 4, B-A-N-K of banker, are the ones that have got a video each of them of their own in the other playlist. So have a look at them for more detail. The extra ones that I've added in is the E and the R. So the E is expectation. Now this is kind of similar to acceptance, but I felt it deserved its own one, because I was realising that I was living my life with a great expectation of myself mostly, but of other people or situations, because I found myself that I've done a video on this about a control freak. You know, I was becoming this control freak because life is so busy. You know, I realised, when I realised that, I was like, oh, I'm such a control freak. And then I wanted to put the shame and blame, but I stopped myself and I was like, actually, there's a reason why I'm doing this. There's a reason why I'm being a control freak. Because I'm so busy. At the time, my hubby was working away. I'm home educating at home on my own, 5 days a week. It's tough, right? All you single parents out there, I feel you. I felt what it was like. And sometimes the only way to survive is to try and be in control of it all, because you haven't got the energy if you lose control or the situation controls, like you've got nobody there to help, right? So you end up being this control freak where you want to put all the fires out. You want to control everyone and everything. And that's exhausting. So it does link into acceptance. So having an expectation of yourself. Are we in this masculine energy too much? All of us, whatever your gender. Society is in this masculine energy, doing to-do lists. Oh my God, the to-do lists. I was living in them. And I've literally had to come back and just get back into the feminine energy. I do something off my to-do list, and then I come back in rest and receiving and acceptance and kindness to myself that I've done that before moving on to the next thing. And if I get them all done, great. If I don't, so what? So what? Life isn't about to-do lists. Life isn't about having a whole expectation of your whole life going a certain way. Because you know what? let's play devil's advocate. If it did, if our life went out as this great expectation every single day, all of our lives, and we sat on our deathbed, would we feel really fulfilled? If we had everything we want all the time go our way, would that be a fulfilling life? Have you really thought about that when we think about challenges and how difficult life is? You know, the opposite to that, you'd be sat on your deathbed going, wow, yeah, I got through that life. It was challenging and I got through. The sentiment, that feeling of achievement, accomplishment, very masculine words, but very rewarding. Rewarding is probably a gentler word. A rewarding, fulfilling life. And you can't have that if you don't have the downs. And that's why I always say the roller coaster of life. Without the downs, we can't appreciate the ups. So to have an expectation of life and people and us, you know, it's a form of planning. Yes, plan, but then come back and be in the now with kindness. And if it doesn't work out, so be it. Have that acceptance then around it. So the last one is remember. Remember. Remember what, Carrie? Remember how important and sovereign you are. If you believe in this stuff, the higher self, what would your higher self say about the way you're living your life right now? When it comes to the problems and solutions, what would your higher self be saying? Remember who you are. You are a very powerful, sovereign being that has a wealth of knowledge to date already, however old you are. Stop giving your power away. Stop asking for help on everything. I'm not disputing to ask for help and ask for support and guidance, but not all the time. When you can go inside first, because when we look inside, we have that inner wisdom, that intuition, that guidance and support inside where we actually do know what to do. Internal validation. I've done another video on that. Internal validation. Look inwards first, and then if you can't find the answers, ask. But it's really important to remember just how powerful you are. So that is Banker. Balance, acceptance, non-judgment, kindness, expectation, and remember. They're your 6 words. So we'll quickly go through, just very quickly, a couple of examples. So let's take relationships. So relationships, your missus is complaining, you don't know what you've done wrong, you don't know what a problem is, blah, 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 blah. Balance. Okay. So where are you out of balance? Where could she be out of balance? Where are you grasping and where are you letting go too much? So it could be work-life balance. When it comes down to the relationship problem, work-life balance. Are you working too much? Or are you outside of the home too much? You might be doing other things. It might not just be work. But where's your work-life balance? Where's your relationship balance? Where's you putting some time and effort into the relationship? Are you being seen to do that? So I'm looking at this from the guy's point of view. Where are you putting some time and effort into the relationship? Is that what's out of balance? If you did that, so if that's the problem and you did more of that, so you're too loose on not giving the relationship enough time and energy. And what if you grasp that a little bit more, not grasping fully, but what if you tighten that bit up to get yourself more in balance? Would your wife feel that and feel seen and heard and therefore bring about more connection? The other alternative in relationships is to just communicate instead of just guessing. But this acronym helps you to have an idea. It could be a case you use this acronym and go to your wife. You don't seem yourself, you seem a bit annoyed at me, is it this? And it's like being a manager, isn't it? Going up to your manager doesn't want to hear problems. They want to hear you come up with a problem and solve it, and then they'll give you the say-so to go ahead and solve it with the solution that you brought to them. So same thing, you're going to your wife, you don't seem too great at the minute. I've noticed that I'm not around very much. Is that the problem? Could we have some more date nights? Something like that. See what the response is. Acceptance. With regards to relationships, acceptance of that other person. An acceptance of your responsibility and where you're not stepping up. So, are you accepting what you can do? Can you do a bit more? Are you accepting them for who they are? Now, it's a tricky one, this, because you can't just say you're going to accept someone and then they've got no responsibility in it, because that's not give and take, that's not compromise, that's not communication in relationships. Communication, when it comes to relationships, communication is key. So when it comes to acceptance, you don't want to change that person because you need to accept them as they are. But what you might want to do is to just communicate what feels out of sorts for you and see if they might do something about it. So like I said at the beginning, acceptance is do what you can to accept it, and if you can't, let it go. Accept and let go. So in the first instance, it's with the example of relationship, the first instance is to, have that conversation. And if it's something that they truly can't or don't know how to work with, there's got to be an element of acceptance around that and accepting them for who they are. So in regards to me and my husband, we've worked through the love languages, and I've mentioned this before. We've got my number 2 is his number 1, so that's easy, affection. But my number 1 is words of wisdom, words of affirmation. And he struggles with that. That's like right down at the bottom for him because he was never shown that growing up. So that becomes a bit of a conflict. I'm not getting the words of affirmation that I want. And we've talked about it a lot. And he just really struggles. So I've come to the realization now, the acceptance that it is what it is. He's tried his best. He knows that's an issue. He knows if he can try and work with it, he will. But he was never shown it, so he really doesn't know how. So there's been times when I've actually sort of gently shown him how to do it, kind of thing. But that's an example. Non-judgment. So, yeah, similarly about acceptance, isn't it? Non-judgment around relationships. No, not comparing, not criticizing all the time. Allowing it to be, accepting it and allowing it. So not being judgmental of you in that relationship or the other person, just coming together and having these conversations without any judgment. I'm not judging, I'm not blaming, I'm not criticizing, I'm just coming to you with this. So are you judging that your partner? Back to your balance. Are you judging? And where can you be less judgmental? So with all this acronym, where are you out of balance? Where do you need to be in balance? Where are you not accepting? Where can you accept? Where are you being judgmental? Where can you learn to be not judgmental? Sorry, I was fine before I started this video. Kindness then is the care with regards to relationships. Kindness with your language, kindness with your actions. That's internal as well. Internal language is what you're saying, kind, is what you're saying internally about that other person, kind. And is it also kind what you're saying about yourself as well? So language and actions. Are you being kind? I mean, when we get busy, we get blinkered, we get all about us, all consuming. And we might actually think we're being kind to ourselves because we're thinking of ourselves, but then that turns into being selfish. Selfless turns into selfish. And we get a bit blinkered, we can only see our point of view. And that kindness to ourselves turns into not being kind to somebody else. That resentment word keeps coming back, doesn't it? That resentment comes in. So can we be kind to the other person? And if you don't know, again, communicate and ask. The key with relationship is communication, but these acronyms will help you get there as well. And expectation. Are you having too much expectation of yourself or your partner? I mean, one thing we've started to do is work with where I am in my cycle. And that relates to the kindness too. Having an expectation and having some kindness about where that person is in their day-to-day, in their monthly cycle, or in their day-to-day. You know, it's not just about the women in the cycle, it's about the men that have either physically or mentally worked hard or getting on for burnout. You know, we have to be appreciative of that as well. But the only way we're going to know that is if we communicate. So are we having high expectations of ourselves, of the other person, and is the relationship as a whole? And just remember that we're both these sovereign, powerful beings, and we've chosen to be in each other's lives. And we often talk down, again, the unkindness. We talk down, we mourn to our friends about what hubby's said or done, rather than say what he's done well. So let's remember why we're in a relationship, why we love them, and let that focus be the attention of the relationship instead of all this negativity. So similarly, you can do this with parenting, health, hobbies, all these little pots that I mentioned. Time's getting on, so I'm not going to go into any more examples, but basically, where are you in and out of balance? Where can you bring more balance in? Where are you in and out of acceptance of yourself and the other person? Where can you bring more acceptance in? Where are you being judgmental? Where can you be non-judgmental in this problem, whatever the problem is? Where are you not being kind, and how can you be a bit more kinder to yourself and others? Are you in great expectation of yourself, someone else, or something else? And where can you be less expecting of other people? Or controlling is another word. And remember your sovereign, powerful being, okay? Just remember that. That's it for that one. Just remember that. Have you forgotten it? Where do you need to remember? And sit with that for a little bit. Journal that with a bit. You can journal all this stuff. You can communicate it to the people involved. That's how you can work with this acronym. So I hope that's been beneficial. Do try it out. I do have a lot of hopes for this. It's helped me massively. Anytime I've gone out of whack, at least one of those has been the problem and has been the solution as well. So let me know in the comments when you try that out. Before I move on to how this relates to you and your family, if you have had some value from this so far, you know how to return the favour. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. It means a lot. Thank you. So relating it to family life, 3 points here. Mindful parents mirror and pass down intentional beliefs and life lessons as best we can. So we're giving ourselves kindness here, okay? Mindful parents mirror and pass down intentional beliefs and life lessons. So if we work with this acronym, and we can start to work on this acronym with every little pot, back to your money pots, with every little pot in our lives, our kids will learn that, And as they grow up and they're trying to do that for themselves, we can show them that. Because the pots, or the depleted pots that we've got now, that's how we've got to where we are, is predominantly with our upbringing. So now we, the parents, we can pass that down intentionally, mindfully, and use this acronym to help. It helps with the 3 C's. Okay, so the 3 C's are commitment, connection, and communication. So commitment, communication, and connection. So commitment is where we're accountable and we are responsible. So this is us doing the work. Okay, so investing in your life, back to the title. Investing in your life, putting time, effort, energy into this, mindfully, intentionally, okay? So the commitment is to show up, be accountable, do the work, show your kids you're doing the work, show your partner you're doing the work, and then that will hopefully mirror to them, like I said in the previous one. Communication, I've mentioned that a lot in that example of relationships. So communication is key, and connection, we get connection with that. So when we can communicate more, we get better connection. So working with this acronym, being committed to do the work, including communicating. So one thing I had with my mum was I didn't really hear her say sorry. And kind of had an impact because I never heard it. So it felt weird when I wanted to say it because I didn't hear it. So now I'm a parent, it's like, well, I am sorry. I made a mistake. I'm doing this. I'm working through this. I'm not perfect. And I've realised I've done wrong there. So I will say sorry to the kids. And that is a communication. And that then gets connection. So using this acronym can help with that as well, help with connection. So we can do this with our kids. We can use this tool for our kids too. Where are our kids getting triggered? Where are they out of balance? What's their expectation? What's my expectation of them? You know, work through the acronym with your kids as well. And it helps you all to be the people and the family you want to be. You feel free, not judged, and able to be yourselves. So imagine that. Imagine growing up. What was it like for you growing up? And you might have had a great upbringing, that's brilliant. But were you able to be yourself? Were you able to be free and say and do what you wanted? Did you have that space? Did your parents allow for that? Probably not. Maybe. But if not, now we become the conscious parent, the mindful parent, and we can start to pass that on to our kids now. We can start to, be mindful of our language when we're trying to tell them to shut up. They're too loud, they're too this, they're too that. Well, that becomes a belief of theirs. So our language becomes their belief. So when we're mindful of that, using this acronym, we can turn around. So my expectation is that my kid's too loud and needs to be quiet, right? That's a fact. And yes, there's a time and place to be loud, so that's true. But how we handle that is what we need to put our attention on. So in that situation, we can use words like, what I do is I'll say, can we turn it down a bit? I'm not telling her to turn it off. I'm not telling her to shut up. I'm not telling her to be quiet. I'm just saying, can you turn the volume down a bit? Or can you use your inside voice? So language it was really difficult for me to turn that around because I was brought up with something else. Shut up, do as you're told, barked orders. Well, as a mindful, conscious parent, we turn that round to trying to change the language. And not just to your kids, to your partner too. What are you saying to him and what tone of voice? So by doing this work, it helps you all to be the family you want to be. So yeah, this acronym can solve all your problems if you put the work into it. It can show you where the problem is and help to solve it if you put the work in. So give it a try and see what you think. Question for the comment box is, what area are you depleted in your life? What little pot do you need to invest time and energy into using this acronym? So I'm going to hold you accountable, commitment and accountability. In the comments, drop in what you're going to try and practice this acronym on. Is it relationships? Is it parenting? Is it work? Is it health? Is it hobbies? What thing, you know, we're over halfway now in this year, so it's a good time to just review. Has it gone the way you wanted from the beginning of 2025? And this could be a little bit of a review and a jivvy up, if you will, to just get on and switch it a little bit if you can. So what area do you want to improve on in your life? Can you use the acronym? And when you do, drop what happens in the comments. That'll be great. So that's what I've got for you. Much love. Bye for now.